Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome back to Congress in Context. Today we're taking a deep dive into the Congressional Record from Friday, March 14th, 2025. We're breaking down a day filled with legislation, debates, and tributes in both the House and the Senate to give you a clearer picture of what's happening on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, think of it like a personalized tour through the forces shaping policy and governance. We'll uncover the hidden stories behind those dense pages, pulling out the most insightful and relevant bits for you.
Okay, let's jump right in. The Senate kicked things off at 10 a.m. with their typical morning business, but things quickly escalated with some interesting executive nominations.
Right off the bat, we see cloture motions filed for Stephen Feinberg's nomination as Deputy Secretary of Defense and for Michael Kratsios to head the Office of Science and Technology Policy. These motions, backed by a good number of Republican senators, suggest some pushback, requiring this procedural maneuver to limit debate and force a vote. Even executive appointments can be battlegrounds in the current political climate.
It's a reminder that a 60-vote supermajority is often needed in the Senate to move things forward, highlighting the need for at least some level of bipartisan support to overcome these procedural hurdles. But of course, not all nominations face the same level of scrutiny.
Exactly. Unanimous consent was reached for John Phelan as Secretary of the Navy and Christopher Landau as Deputy Secretary of State, with votes scheduled for the following Monday. So some areas still see smoother sailing, indicating that cooperation isn't entirely extinct.
Let's shift gears to the legislative action in the Senate, starting with the HALT Fentanyl Act. This seems like a pretty big deal, especially with the ongoing opioid crisis, and it looks like it had significant bipartisan support.
It definitely did, passing with a commanding 80-16 vote. This act, S-331, tackles the fentanyl crisis head-on by permanently classifying fentanyl-related substances as Schedule Earth in the Controlled Substances Act. It closes a loophole that let traffickers tweak the chemical makeup just enough to evade regulations. It's a proactive move, aiming to stay ahead of these constantly evolving synthetic opioids.
So no more playing catch-up with temporary classifications. This aims for a more permanent solution. But the act doesn't just stop at enforcement, it also addresses the crucial need for research.
You got it. To combat the crisis effectively, we need to understand it better. So the act makes research on Schedule I drugs easier, streamlining the process for researchers already working with controlled substances and opening doors for new researchers to join the fight. And to keep things accountable, it mandates an Inspector General report on fentanyl research within a year. This ensures that policymaking in this critical area is driven by evidence, not just emotion.
Moving on to another major piece of legislation, the Full-Year Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act. These funding battles often expose deep partisan divisions, and this time was no different.
You're right. The Senate did agree to proceed with the bill, but the close votes, 62-38 for cloture and 54-46 for final passage, reveal how sharply divided they are on government spending. This continuing resolution, or CR, essentially keeps the government running in the short term, but the disagreements highlight fundamental clashes over spending priorities and the overall direction of fiscal policy.
And we can't forget that interesting amendment about a United States DOGE service, which aimed to limit funding for the Department of Government Efficiency. What was that all about, and why didn't it make the cut?
Well, this amendment throws light on a recurring theme in budget debates: the desire for government efficiency versus what's considered wasteful spending. Its rejection, with a 47-53 vote, suggests that most senators weren't sold on the proposed cuts or maybe even question the effectiveness of this DOGE idea. It's a reminder that even the idea of government efficiency can be interpreted in various ways.
Sounds like a classic clash of ideologies about the role and size of government.
Precisely. Republican senators voiced concerns about the CR continuing Biden-era spending levels without the cuts they wanted, reflecting a push for fiscal restraint. Discussions about foreign aid, specifically USAID programs, and their impact on the national debt also took center stage. So it's the age-old struggle: avoid a government shutdown or fight for your specific spending priorities.
Immediate needs versus long-term goals. But then we have the District of Columbia Local Funds Act, which seemed to sail through with less drama. What made this one different?
The key is that S 1077, which passed by voice vote, deals solely with how D.C. uses its own local funds for its 2025 budget. Senators made it clear that no federal taxpayer money is involved. It essentially lets D.C. manage its finances for essential services, ironing out a wrinkle in the House version of the CR. It's about local autonomy, not federal spending, so it garnered bipartisan support.
So a win for local control. The Senate also passed several resolutions, which, while not legally binding, serve to acknowledge achievements, raise awareness, and highlight important causes.
These resolutions might not be laws, but they carry weight. Recognizing National Board Certified Teachers, honoring Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, and designating National CACFP Week, it all shows what the Senate values. And their authorization of a Holocaust Remembrance Ceremony in Emancipation Hall emphasizes their role in remembering history.
And apart from the bills voted on, there were also proposed amendments that didn't come to a vote that day. What insights do those offer?
They're a window into current concerns and possible future legislative agendas. Proposals about veteran federal employees and public shipyards show us where some senators are looking to make changes in policy or funding. These might not be immediate priorities, but they can spark future debates and legislative efforts.
On a more personal note, the tributes to the late Senator Al Simpson from Wyoming were quite poignant. What did those highlight about his legacy?
They were a testament to the power of bipartisanship and civility in politics. Senators shared anecdotes that painted a picture of his character, his willingness to bridge divides, and his dedication to serving the nation. In today's often polarized climate, those tributes were a reminder of a time, or at least an aspiration, for greater cooperation and understanding.
A stark contrast in topic. But the recognition of the Iditarod race was also a significant moment, acknowledging a unique American tradition and celebrating human and animal endurance.
Absolutely. Recognizing the completion of the Iditarod, congratulating Jesse Holmes on his win, and acknowledging the challenges faced by all the mushers and their dog teams shows the Senate's connection to diverse aspects of American life, even those far removed from the political arena.
We also saw recognition for local organizations like Prevented in St. Louis, and even a shout-out for a wedding anniversary. It's a reminder that the Congressional Record captures a wide range of human experiences.
These moments highlight that while Congress grapples with national and global issues, its members are also deeply connected to their communities and constituents. Those recognitions might be brief, but they humanize the formal proceedings. And resolutions honoring Selfridge Air National Guard Base and Black Midwives Day show that even hyperlocal topics can be amplified on the national stage to raise awareness and commemorate important events.
Now let's switch gears and head over to the House of Representatives. They convened earlier that day at 9 a.m.
They got started with their standard procedures, prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, and then an announcement about the reduction in the total number of House members due to Representative Grijalva's passing. A solemn reminder of the human toll even within these institutions.
And, as is typical in the House, a slew of new bills and resolutions were introduced. Any standouts in terms of potential impact or future debates?
Several piqued my interest. H.R. 2129, seeking to repeal the Alien Registration Act of 1940, is a big one. That act has been the bedrock for immigration enforcement and data collection for decades. Its repeal would signal a major shift in how the federal government approaches these issues. Then we have H.R. 2130, which addresses specific issues with the Bureau of Indian Affairs mortgage processing, targeting bureaucratic hurdles in Native American communities. And H.R. 2054, the Voting Only Through English Act, or VOTE Act, proposes requiring states to use English-only ballots to get federal election funds. That one's sure to spark heated debates about voting accessibility and inclusivity.
Yeah, the VOTE Act touches on some fundamental issues about national identity and voting rights in a diverse society.
It does. The congressman who introduced it framed it as a way to promote national unity through a common language, pointing to the English requirement for naturalization. But such a proposal would inevitably raise concerns about disenfranchising citizens with limited English and how it might impact voter turnout and fair representation.
And what about the House resolutions? Seems like they had their fair share of variety.
Definitely a mixed bag. HRES 221, supporting National Pie Day, was likely a lighthearted bipartisan moment. HRES 222 recognized veterans service organizations, a generally uncontroversial topic. Then there's HRES 224, supporting Detransition Awareness Day, which highlights the growing and often debated awareness of the experiences of individuals who have detransitioned. And HRES 225 proposed designating March as Autoimmune Awareness Month, seeking to increase public understanding of those conditions.
Similar to the Senate, the House also took time to recognize individuals for their contributions.
Lots of shout-outs, from Euless Police Corporal Thomas Wade Tice, retiring to Mr. Doug Nguyen's long career with the Social Security Administration. Even Representative Tim Moore's explanation for a missed vote, though routine, is crucial for transparency.
And the number of tributes to local heroes and community members was quite striking. It really grounds the work of Congress in everyday American life.
Absolutely. Recognition for Mr. Dorian Pace, the heroic school bus driver, Mr. Jeffrey Askew's service in Florida, and tributes to individuals like Mr. Bill Smith and Miss Janice Jordan, it all demonstrates the strong connection between representatives and their constituents. The importance of recognizing local contributions and losses is clear. The recognition of Eleanor Atchison retiring from Amtrak and the community service of Mr. and Mrs. Dillard further emphasized this local connection. Even Skokie Mayor George Van Dusen's retirement was celebrated, acknowledging a lifetime of public service.
The sheer volume and variety of activities packed into a single day in Congress, as recorded in the Congressional Record, is astounding.
It is. You get this incredibly detailed, albeit sometimes overwhelming, picture of what our representatives are doing, from high-stakes policy debates to those very personal acknowledgments. And the legislation regarding the Northern Mariana Islands in the Essential Air Service Program, plus the recognition of Euless Police Sergeant Todd Bella, add even more layers to this snapshot of a day in Congress.
The publication of the rules for a House committee was also interesting, offering a glimpse into their internal workings. Why is that significant?
It sheds light on the often obscure processes of how committees operate. Those rules cover crucial aspects like meeting procedures, witness questioning, and the committee's authority. By understanding these rules, we can better grasp how bills are shaped and move through the House.
Stepping back and looking at the big picture, what key themes or trends emerge from this deep dive into the Congressional Record of March 14, 2025?
The constant tug-of-war between partisan divides and bipartisan efforts stands out. We see it in the funding debates, but also in the strong support for the HALT Fentanyl Act. The sheer range of issues tackled, from the opioid crisis to very local concerns and individual recognitions, also highlights the multifaceted nature of Congress. And the numerous bills introduced in the House suggest a constant flow of new policy ideas, some with the potential to reshape our nation. The VOTE Act and the possible repeal of the Alien Registration Act are prime examples of this.
It's clear that Congress deals with the urgent and the everyday, the national and the local, all in a single day's work. So, looking ahead, what are the potential implications of what we saw unfold on that day?
Well, permanently scheduling fentanyl analogs could significantly impact law enforcement's ability to fight the opioid crisis, though its long-term success will depend on many factors. Those ongoing debates about government spending and the national debt will continue to shape our fiscal policy. And those House bills represent potential policy shifts across diverse areas, from immigration to voting rights and environmental regulations. The future is being shaped right now.
So for those listening, what are the key takeaways for staying informed and engaged with what's happening in Congress?
The Congressional Record itself, available online, is your primary source for diving into the nitty-gritty details. Tracking specific bills or resolutions that you care about can provide valuable insights into the legislative process. And most importantly, don't forget that you have a voice. Contact your representatives, let them know your thoughts on the issues, and participate in our democracy. Understanding the context, as we've tried to do today, is the first step towards effective engagement.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Congressional Record. We hope this has shed some light on the workings of Congress on that particular day. What questions does this raise for you? What areas of congressional activity pique your interest? Your curiosity and engagement are crucial for understanding the forces that shape our nation.